Tonight, you will scroll past an ant who is richer than you, and you will assume she did something dramatic to get there. A lucky season, a secret tunnel full of gold, a windfall the rest of the colony never got. But the truth is far quieter than that. The truth is crawling slowly, patiently, right under your feet. Picture one ordinary worker ant. She is not the strongest in the colony. She is not the fastest forager. She will never wear the crown. And yet, season after season, her chamber stays full while the tunnels around her go silent with hunger. She does not work harder than the others. She works differently. She has habits, boring habits, unsexy habits, the kind no ant ever brags about at the surface, and those quiet habits are the entire reason her winter never turns into a famine. You believe wealth is built in big moments. It is not. It is built in small, repeated, almost invisible choices that no one claps for, so let's count them down. 10 unsexy habits that quietly build a rich colony. None of them are exciting. All of them work. And the last one is the habit almost every ant ignores until it is far too late. Number 10. She carries one extra crumb home before she eats. Every single day, before she touches a single bite for herself, she sets one crumb aside in the back of her tunnel. Just one. It feels like nothing. A single crumb against a whole colony of need. But the ant who waits until the end of the day to save has nothing left to save. The food is already gone. This is the oldest rule in any economy, and it is brutally simple. Pay yourself first, not last. The colony that survives the winter is never the one that saved whatever happened to be left over. There is never anything left over. It is the colony that took its share off the top, quietly, before the spending began. Number 9, she never eats the entire pile in one good season. When the rains are kind and the leaves fall thick, the loud ants feast. They eat to the bottom of the stash because the surface is generous and tomorrow feels far away. Your wise ant does not. She watches the abundance and she eats less than she could. She lives below the line of what the season allows. Economists have a cold phrase for the opposite of this. They call it lifestyle inflation. The more the colony gathers, the more it believes it needs. The feast expands to swallow the harvest. But the ant who keeps her appetite smaller than her income is the only ant who will ever have a surplus. And a surplus is the seed of everything that comes after. Number 8. She never keeps all her sugar in one chamber. The lazy ant digs one room and piles everything inside it. It is easier, it is tidier. And the day a beetle breaks through that single wall, she loses her entire life's work in an afternoon. The wise ant spreads her stash across 3 tunnels in 3 corners of the hill. If one floods, the others hold. This is not caution for its own sake. In 1952, an economist named Harry Markowitz proved with mathematics what the careful ant already knew in her legs. He showed that spreading your holdings does not just reduce your risk, it can reduce that risk without reducing your reward at all. He called it diversification. The ant just calls it not being foolish. Number 7. She ignores what the loud ants are dragging home. Every season there is a shiny pebble that the whole colony suddenly wants. A glittering stone, a bright leaf, something useless that signals you're doing well. The ants haul these trophies past her tunnel and she feels the pull, the small ache of wanting to be seen as they are seen. And she lets it pass. Because she knows the secret the trophy ants do not. They are not rich. They are spending the appearance of rich. The most dangerous predator in any colony is not the beetle or the bird. It is the quiet voice that whispers you must match what your neighbor just carried home. Number 6. She fixes the cracked tunnel before the winter, not during it. There is a small fracture in her wall in autumn. It is not urgent. The weather is fine. Every other ant walks past it. The wise ant patches it while the sun is still out, while it is cheap and slow and easy to do, because she knows that the same crack, discovered in the middle of a flood, costs 10 times the effort and sometimes costs the colony itself. This is the unglamorous habit of maintenance, of insurance, of handling the small problem while it is still small. It never feels productive. It is the most productive thing she does all year. Number 5. She trades for tools, not for trinkets. When she does spend her surplus, she is ruthless about one question: will this thing feed me later, or will it only please me now? A sharp cutting stone that helps her gather faster for 100 seasons is a tool. A pretty shell that does nothing but sit in her tunnel is a trinket. The wise ant pours her surplus into the things that produce more and starves the things that only consume. Centuries ago, Adam Smith watched human colonies and saw the same divide. Some spending builds the machine that makes the wealth. Some spending simply burns the wealth for warmth. The rich ant knows exactly which crumb she is spending every time. Number 4, she counts her sugar every moon. Most ants have no idea how much they truly have. They have a feeling, a vague sense that the stash is fine, probably, more or less. The wise ant does not run on feelings. Once every moon, she walks her tunnels and she counts every crumb, every leaf, every seed. It is tedious, it is the opposite of thrilling, and it is the only way she ever catches the slow leak before it becomes a flood. You cannot manage what you refuse to look at. The ant who counts is never ambushed by the truth, because she has already met it, calmly, every single moon. Number 3, she refuses the queen's easy sugar. There will come a season when the gathering is thin and the queen offers a shortcut. Borrow now, she says. Take the sugar today and simply carry a little extra back to me each season after. It feels like rescue. It feels like generosity. The wise ant has watched what happens to the ants who say yes. They spend the borrowed sugar in one bright season, and then they spend the rest of their lives carrying crumbs uphill to the queen, paying back far more than they ever received. Easy sugar is the most expensive food in the colony. She would rather go hungry for one short season than mortgage 100 seasons of her labor for it. Number 2, she teaches the young ants before they need it. The richest colonies are never built by one brilliant ant. They are built by ants who hand their habits down before the famine, not after. The wise ant pulls the young ones aside while the sun is out and shows them the back of the tunnel, the extra crumb, the 3 chambers, the crack in the wall. She knows that a habit taught early compounds across an entire lifetime, and a lesson taught too late is just a eulogy. The behavioral economist Richard Thaler spent his career proving that the small nudges we receive early shape the enormous outcomes we reach later. The colony that teaches its young to save raises a generation that never has to be rescued. And number 1, the habit almost every ant ignores. She started the day she was born, not the day she grew old. This is the one, the quietest, the most unsexy, and by far the most powerful. The wise ant did not wait until she was wise to begin. She began as a small, clumsy, uncertain worker who set aside one crumb she could barely spare, because she understood something that the great minds spent centuries proving. In the 1960s, a researcher named Walter Mischel sat small children in front of a single marshmallow and offered them 2 if they could simply wait. The ones who could wait, who could let a small reward grow into a larger one, went on to richer, steadier, calmer lives. The ant lives this every day. One crumb saved early does not stay one crumb. It grows. It draws interest from time itself. And time is the one resource the colony can never dig back up once it is gone. So look again at your own tunnels tonight. Not at the shiny pebbles your neighbors are dragging home. Not at the loud ants feasting at the surface. Look at the quiet, boring, unsexy habits. The extra crumb taken off the top. The appetite kept smaller than the harvest. The sugar spread across 3 chambers. The crack patched early. The borrowed sugar refused. None of it will ever go viral in the colony. None of it will make the other ants stop and stare. And that is exactly why it works. Because here is the truth you started this with, completely reframed. Tonight, someone will scroll past you and assume you got lucky. They will look for the dramatic moment, the secret, the windfall. They will never find it. Because there wasn't one. There was only an ordinary ant who was never the strongest or the fastest, doing 10 boring things that no one ever clapped for, one quiet crumb at a time, until one winter she looked up and realized her tunnel was the fullest in the entire hill.